Captain Taemin stood in the control room of the research ship Gentle Current. His crystal-like skin glowed with a soft blue light as he watched the stars through the large window. The Velnari had been exploring this quiet part of space for many months. They were looking for new planets and trying to understand the universe better. The ship was peaceful and quiet. Dr. Jiwoo worked at her science station, studying samples from a nearby moon. The crew moved slowly and carefully, as all Velnari did. Their people had never known war or violence. They spent their time healing others and learning about the galaxy. Suddenly, a loud alarm filled the ship. The peaceful silence was broken by flashing red lights. Taemin's crystal body turned a worried purple color. He had never heard this alarm before. "Captain!" called out Communications Officer Sang-ho from his station. His voice was shaking with fear. "We are getting an emergency! Message from our homeworld!" Taemin rushed to the communication station. His heart was beating fast as he listened to the message. The voice coming through the speakers was full of panic and terror. "This is Prime Minister Dao-su from Serenity Prime. Our planet is under attack. The Korthak Empire has sent a massive fleet to our system. They are destroying our cities and killing our people. We have no weapons to fight them. We need help immediately." The message continued with sounds of explosions and screaming in the background. Taemin felt his crystal body grow cold with fear. Serenity Prime was home to billions of peaceful Velnari. It was also a medical center where many different alien species came for healing. Dr. Jiwoo ran to the captain's side. Her crystal face was pale with shock. "Captain, what can we do? We have no weapons on this ship. We are just scientists and explorers." Taemin looked around at his crew. They were all staring at him with hope and fear in their crystal eyes. He knew they were waiting for him to find a solution. But what could one small research ship do against the mighty Korthak Empire? The Korthak were known throughout the galaxy as brutal warriors. They had huge ships filled with powerful weapons. They attacked peaceful planets and took what they wanted. Many species feared them, but no one was strong enough to stop them. "Sang-ho, send a message to the Galactic Council," Taemin ordered. "Tell them what is happening. Ask for help from any species that can fight." Sang-ho worked quickly at his station. After a few minutes, he looked up with sadness in his eyes. "Captain, I have sent messages to everyone we know, but most species are too far away to help. The ones that are close enough don't have strong enough weapons to fight the Korthak." Dr. Jiwoo was looking at her computer screen. She was searching through all the information they had about different alien species. "Captain, what about the humans?" she asked quietly. Taemin had heard of humans before. They were a new species that had recently joined the galactic community. Most people didn't know much about them. They came from a planet that was marked as very dangerous in all the star charts. "What do we know about them?" Taemin asked. Jiwoo read from her screen. "They are from a planet called Earth. It's classified as an extreme danger world. The planet has violent weather, dangerous animals, and deadly diseases. Most species think it's impossible to live there safely." "But humans do live there?" asked Taemin. "Yes, and they have somehow survived and built a civilization. They recently built ships that can travel between stars. They have a small space, fleet, but no one knows how strong it is." Taemin thought about this information. A species that could survive on such a dangerous planet might be tough enough to fight. But would they help strangers they had never met? Another message came from Serenity Prime. This time, the voice was weaker and filled with despair. "The Korthak have destroyed our main cities. They are now attacking our hospitals and schools. Millions are dead. If anyone can hear this, please help us. We are running out of time." The message ended with the sound of a massive explosion. Then, there was only silence. Taemin felt tears forming in his crystal eyes. His people were dying, and he was too far away to help them. He looked at his crew and saw the same pain in their faces. "Captain," said Dr. Jiwoo softly, "the humans are our only choice. Every other species is either too far away or too weak to fight the Korthak." Tae-min nodded slowly. He knew she was right. The humans were their last hope, even though no one knew if they would help or if they were strong enough to make a difference. "Sang-ho, find the location of the human home system," Tae-min ordered. "Send them our strongest distress signal. Tell them what is happening to our people." Sang-ho worked at his station for several minutes. "Captain, I found their system. It's called Sol. I'm sending the message now." The crew watched as their desperate plea for help traveled through space toward the unknown human world. They had no idea if the humans would even receive the message. They didn't know if humans were peaceful like the Velnari or if they were warriors like the Korthak. "How long until the message reaches them?" asked Tae-min. "About 6 hours, Captain," replied Sang-ho. Tae-min stared out at the stars. 6 hours felt like forever when his people were dying. He wondered what these humans were like. Could a species from such a dangerous world really help them? Or would they ignore the message from strangers? Dr. Jiwoo put her hand on the captain's shoulder. "We did everything we could," she said gently. "Now we can only wait and hope." Tae-min nodded and continued to stare into space. Somewhere out there on a dangerous world called Earth, their message was traveling toward an unknown species. The fate of billions of innocent Velnari now depended on how these mysterious humans would respond. The gentle current continued its lonely journey through space, carrying a crew full of hope and fear. Behind them, their home world was burning. Ahead of them, an unknown future waited with a species that might be their salvation, or just another disappointment in a galaxy that seemed to have forgotten how to protect the innocent. Admiral So Young was drinking her morning coffee on the bridge of the UES Iron Thunder when the alien message arrived. She was a tough woman with sharp eyes and scars on her hands from years of military service. The human fleet was on routine. Patrol near the edge of their territory when the ship's computer detected the strange signal. "Admiral," called out Lieutenant Dongmin from the communications station. "We're receiving what appears to be a distress signal from an unknown alien species." So Young set down her coffee cup and walked over to the station. "Can you translate it?" "The AI is working on it now, ma'am. It's coming from very far away outside our known space." Commander Hyun-woo joined them at the station. He was the fleet's top tactical officer, known for his quick thinking and calm behavior during dangerous situations. His dark eyes studied the data flowing across the screen. "Translation complete," announced the ship's AI in its mechanical voice. "Playing message now." The bridge fell silent as the desperate voice of Captain Tae-min filled the room. Even through the computer translation, the fear and pain in his voice was clear. He begged for help for his dying people. He described the Korthak attack and the millions of innocent lives being lost. When the message ended, the bridge remained quiet for several seconds. Admiral So Young felt anger building in her chest. She had heard about the Korthak Empire from other alien contacts. They were bullies who attacked peaceful species and took what they wanted. "Hyun-woo, what do we know about this Korthak Empire?" she asked. Commander Hyun-woo pulled up information on his screen. "They're a large military force with over 1,000 ships. They've conquered dozens of peaceful worlds in the past 50 years. Their ships are big and heavily armed, but they're slow and not very advanced." "How do they usually fight?" asked So Young. "They rely on fear and overwhelming numbers. They surround a planet with massive ships and threaten to destroy everything, unless the people surrender. Most species give up without a fight because they don't want their people to die." Captain Bo-Ram of the assault cruiser Stormbringer had been listening to the conversation over the communication system. Her voice came through the speakers with excitement. "Admiral, this could be our chance to show the galaxy what humans can do. We've been looking for a way to prove ourselves out here." So Young nodded. The human fleet was small compared to some of the great galactic powers. Most alien species didn't take them seriously because they came from such a remote part of space. Some even thought humans were weak because they had only recently developed space travel. "What's our fleet strength right now?" asked So Young. "We have 47 ships ready for combat," reported Hyun Woo. 15 destroyers, 20 cruisers, 8 carriers, and 4 dreadnoughts, including the Iron Thunder. Lieutenant Dong Min looked worried. "Admiral, that's much smaller than the Korthak force attacking the Velnari. Intelligence reports say they have over 200 ships in that system." So Young smiled grimly. She had fought in the resource wars back on Earth, where human fleets had defeated much larger forces through superior tactics and technology. "Numbers aren't everything, Lieutenant. Sometimes it's about how you use what you have." She walked to the center of the bridge and activated the fleet-wide communication system. Her voice was broadcast to every ship in the human fleet. "This is Admiral So Young to all ships. We have received a distress call from a peaceful alien species under attack by aggressive forces. These people are being slaughtered while we speak. They have no weapons to defend themselves and no one else is coming to help them." She paused and looked out at the stars through the bridge window. "I know we're far from home. I know we don't know these aliens personally, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that innocent people are dying and we have the power to stop it." Captain Do Hyun of the stealth destroyer Silent Fury responded over the communication system. "Admiral, my crew is ready to fight. When do we leave?" Similar responses came from ships throughout the fleet. Every captain and crew member was eager to help the desperate aliens. This was why they had joined the space fleet, to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. "Hyun Woo, how long to reach the Velnari system at maximum speed?" asked So Young. "About 18 hours with our fastest ships, Admiral. Then we leave immediately. Set course for the Velnari system. All ships are to prepare for combat operations." As the fleet began moving toward their destination, So Young studied the tactical information about the Korthak forces. Their ships were indeed large and powerful, but they were designed like ancient Earth battleships. They moved in straight lines and relied on heavy armor and big guns. Human ships were different. They were built by people who had learned to fight. In the dangerous environment around Earth, human technology focused on speed, stealth, and precision strikes. Their ships could move quickly and strike without warning. "Admiral," said Hyun Woo, "I've been studying Korthak battle tactics. They've never fought against anyone like us. Every species they've conquered used similar fighting methods. Big, ships shooting at each other from long distances." So Young nodded. "They've never faced hunters before. They're used to fighting prey animals." Lieutenant Dong Min looked confused. "Ma'am," Commander Hyun Woo explained, "most alien species evolved as prey animals or peaceful plant eaters. Humans evolved as hunters on a world that was constantly trying to kill us. We learned to track, to plan, to strike when our enemy least expected it." As the fleet traveled through space toward the battle, So Young felt a familiar feeling in her stomach. It was the same feeling she had before every major battle, a mixture of excitement and determination. She knew her people were ready for this fight. "Send a message to the Velnari ship," she ordered. "Tell them help is coming. Tell them to stay hidden and wait for us." The human fleet moved through space like a pack of wolves heading toward their prey. The Korthak had no idea what was coming for them. They were about to learn why it was a very bad idea to threaten innocent people when humans were listening. Admiral So Young stood on her bridge, watching the stars rush past. Soon the galaxy would understand what it meant to fight against the children of a death world. The Korthak thought they were the most dangerous predators in space. They were about to discover how wrong they were. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Velnari system like silent ghosts. Admiral So Young stood on the bridge of the Iron Thunder, watching the tactical display show the horrible scene ahead of them. Over 200 massive Korthak ships surrounded the beautiful blue planet called Serenity Prime. Bright flashes of light showed where their weapons were destroying cities on the surface. Millions of innocent people were dying while the attackers celebrated their easy victory. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Dong Min as he stared at the destruction. "They're not even trying to capture anything. They're just killing everyone." Commander Hyunwoo's face was hard with anger. Typical Korthak tactics. They destroy everything. First, then take what's left. It's easier than fighting. Admiral So Young felt cold rage building in her chest. The Korthak ships were huge and ugly, covered with weapons and thick armor. They moved slowly around the planet like giant predators circling wounded prey. Their commanders probably thought this was just another easy conquest. "Captain Do Hyun," she said into her communication device, "take your stealth ships and begin the hunt. Show them what real predators look like." "Yes, Admiral." Silent Fury and Stealth Squadron moving to attack. Positions. The human stealth destroyers were invisible to Korthak sensors. They had been designed using technology that most aliens couldn't imagine. While other species built big, obvious ships, humans had learned to hide and strike from the shadows. Captain. Do-hyun guided his ship Silent Fury toward the largest Korthak dreadnought. The massive enemy ship was 3 times bigger than his destroyer, but size didn't matter when your enemy couldn't see you coming. "Target locked," reported his weapons officer, Lieutenant Yoon Suk. "Plasma torpedoes ready." "Fire," said Do-hyun, quietly. The torpedoes streaked through space, invisible until they struck their target. The Korthak dreadnought simply disappeared in a brilliant explosion. One moment it was coordinating the attack on the planet. The next moment it was scattered pieces of metal floating in space. The other Korthak ships stopped moving. Their commanders couldn't understand what had happened. Their sensors showed no enemy ships, no incoming weapons, nothing that could explain the destruction of their flagship. "What was that?" demanded General Vorgak, the Korthak fleet commander, from his command ship. "Report." "Sir, the Deathbringer has been destroyed," reported one of his officers with fear in his voice. "We can't find any trace of what attacked." Before General Vorgak could respond, 3 more explosions lit up space. 3 more Korthak capital ships were destroyed in seconds. The invisible human ships moved through the enemy fleet like death itself, striking without warning and disappearing again. "All ships, emergency defensive positions," shouted General Vorgak. "Find those attackers." But the Korthak couldn't fight what they couldn't see. Their big, slow ships tried to form defensive circles, but it was useless. The human stealth ships continued their deadly work, picking off enemy vessels one by one. On the surface of Serenity Prime, the Velnari people looked up at the sky in amazement. The terrible rain of destruction had suddenly stopped. Instead, they could see bright explosions in space where their attackers were being destroyed by some unseen force. Captain Taemin watched from his research ship hidden behind one of the planet's moons. "Jiwoo, are you seeing this? Something is attacking the Korthak fleet." Dr. Jiwoo stared at her sensors in disbelief. "Captain, I'm detecting small human ships. They're completely invisible to Korthak sensors. It's like they're made of shadows." Back in space, Admiral So Young was ready for the next phase of the attack. "Captain Yujin, launch all fighters. Show them what Earth pilots can do." The human carrier Skyhunter opened its launch bays and released hundreds of small fighter ships. These craft were nothing like the slow, heavy fighters used by most alien species. Human fighters were fast and agile, designed by people who had learned to fly in the dangerous skies of Earth. Lieutenant Yoon-ji led the first wave of fighters toward the confused Korthak fleet. Her ship darted between the massive enemy vessels like a bird flying through a forest. The Korthak tried to shoot at the small human craft, but they moved too quickly and unpredictably. "This is Red Leader to all fighters," Yoon-ji called over the radio. "These big ships can't turn fast enough to track us. Hit their weapon systems and engine pods. Make them helpless." The human fighters swarmed around the Korthak ships like angry insects. Their weapons were small but precise, designed to hit exactly where they would do the most damage. Within minutes, dozens of enemy ships found their weapons destroyed and their engines failing. General Vorgak watched in horror as his mighty fleet was torn apart by enemies he could barely see. "What are these creatures? How are they moving so fast?" His tactical officer was studying the few sensor readings they could get. "Sir, these appear to be the humans from the edge of the galaxy. But this is impossible. Intelligence reports said they were a weak species with primitive technology." "Weak!" Vorgak watched another of his dreadnoughts explode. "These humans fight like nothing we've ever seen." The truth was becoming clear to the Korthak commander. Every species they had conquered before had fought the same way. Big ships shooting at each other from long distances. It was slow, predictable, and easy to counter with superior numbers. But humans fought differently. They struck from hiding, moved too fast to track, and seemed to know exactly where to hit to cause maximum damage. It was like fighting against the galaxy's most perfect. Predator's Commander Hyunwoo was analyzing the battle from the Iron Thunder. "Admiral, the Korthak are trying to retreat to a defensive formation around their command ship." Admiral So Young smiled coldly. "They think they can hide behind their biggest ship. They don't understand that there's nowhere to hide from humans." She activated the fleet communication system. "All ships, begin final assault. Target their command vessel. End this." The human fleet revealed itself for the first time, dropping their stealth systems as they moved in for the kill. The Korthak finally saw their attackers, sleek, deadly, ships that moved with deadly grace through space. But it was too late. The human ships had already destroyed half the Korthak fleet, and the remaining ships were damaged and demoralized. What had started as an easy conquest had become a nightmare for the attackers. General Vorgak stared at the approaching human fleet with growing terror. These weren't just warriors. They were hunters who had turned his own ships into prey. For the first time in his military career, the mighty Korthak general felt real fear. The humans were coming, and nothing in his experience had prepared him for this kind of fight. Admiral So Young opened a communication channel to the entire Korthak fleet. Her voice was calm and steady, but there was something in her tone that made even experienced warriors feel cold inside. "Attention, Korthak forces. This is Admiral So Young of the Human Interstellar Defense Fleet. You have exactly 10 minutes to stop your attack on these innocent people and leave this system. This is your only warning." On the Korthak command ship, General Vorgak listened to the message with growing anger. How dare these unknown humans threaten him? The Korthak Empire had conquered hundreds of worlds. They would not be frightened by a small fleet from the edge of the galaxy. "Open a channel," he ordered his communications officer. "Let me speak to this human admiral." The channel opened, and Vorgak's harsh voice filled the space between the fleets. "Human admiral, you have made a terrible mistake. The Korthak Empire does not retreat from weak species. We are warriors who have conquered this galaxy for centuries. Surrender now, and we might let some of your people live." Admiral So Young listened to the threat without any change in her expression. She had expected this response. The Korthak were bullies who only understood strength and fear. They had never faced real predators before. "Commander Hyunwoo," she said quietly, "record this conversation. I want the galaxy to remember what happened here." She reactivated the communication channel. "General Vorgak, you were warned. Your people chose to ignore that warning. Now you will learn why that was a mistake." The communication ended, and Admiral So Young turned to her tactical officer. "All ships, begin total assault. Show them what Deathworld tactics really mean." What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for generations. The human fleet didn't charge forward in straight lines like traditional galactic warfare. Instead, they moved like a pack of hunting animals that had learned to kill on the most dangerous planet in the galaxy. Commander Minho led the heavy cruiser squadron in a maneuver that had never been seen in space combat. Instead of fighting, Ship to ship, the human vessels used the asteroids and debris in the system as cover. They darted between rocks, disappeared behind space junk, and struck from unexpected angles. The Korthak tried to respond with their standard tactics, forming defensive lines and firing massive volleys of weapons. But the humans were never where the enemy expected them to be. They moved through space like ghosts, appearing just long enough to destroy a target before vanishing again. Captain Yu Jin's engineering teams had made special modifications to their weapons. Human missiles didn't just explode. They created brilliant flashes of light and sent shock waves through enemy ship hulls. The sounds and vibrations traveled through the metal, reaching the crew inside and filling them with terror. "What kind of weapons are these?" shouted a Korthak officer as his ship shook from a human attack. "They're trying to scare us to death." He was more right than he knew. Humans had learned psychological warfare during thousands of years of conflict on Earth. They understood that destroying an enemy's will to fight was often more effective than simply destroying their ships. The human Marines were led by Colonel Jae-hyun, a veteran of the colony wars who had learned to fight in zero gravity. When damaged Korthak ships were boarded, the aliens inside faced something they had never imagined. Humans in powered armor moving through their corridors like living nightmares. The human boarding parties didn't just fight, they hunted. They moved silently through the ships, striking without warning and disappearing into the shadows. Their armor made them look like mechanical demons, and their tactics were unlike anything in Korthak military experience. But what truly broke? The Korthak spirit was something they had never encountered before. When human Marines captured wounded enemies, they didn't torture or execute them. Instead, human medics treated their injuries with the same care they showed their own people. "Why? Are you helping me?" asked a wounded Korthak soldier as a human medic bandaged his arm. The medic, Sergeant Hyojin, looked at him with calm eyes. "Because you're hurt and we're trained to help hurt people. That's what humans do." This mercy, coming from such efficient killers, was more terrifying to the Korthak than any weapon. They couldn't understand warriors who could destroy their enemies with ruthless efficiency and then treat prisoners with kindness. General Vorgak watched his mighty fleet being torn apart by tactics he couldn't comprehend. Half his ships were destroyed or disabled. The other half were filled with crew members who were too terrified to fight effectively. "Sir," reported his tactical officer with a shaking voice, "we're receiving surrender requests from 17 of our ships. The crews are refusing to continue fighting." Vorgak stared at the display showing the human fleet. They moved through space with a deadly grace that spoke of evolution on a world where only the strongest and smartest survived. These weren't just warriors. They were apex predators who had learned to hunt in an environment that would kill most galactic species. On the surface of Serenity Prime, the Velnari people watched the battle in amazement. The terrible Korthak fleet that had been destroying their world was being defeated by a much smaller force. The humans fought with a combination of technology and tactics that seemed almost magical. Captain Tae-min received a message from the human flagship. Admiral So-young's face appeared on his screen, and he was surprised by what he saw. She looked tired and determined, but there was also kindness in her eyes. "Captain Tae-min, this is Admiral So-young. Your people are safe now. We're finishing with the Korthak fleet. Is there anything your people need immediately?" Tae-min felt tears in his crystal eyes. "Admiral, our cities are damaged, and many people are hurt. We have medical facilities, but we need time to help everyone." "We'll provide security while you take care of your people," So-young replied. "No one will threaten your world while we're here." Back in space, the battle was nearly over. The mighty Korthak invasion fleet had been reduced to scattered survivors fleeing toward the edge of the system. Not a single human ship had been destroyed, and their casualties were surprisingly light. General Vorgak's command ship was surrounded by human vessels. His weapons were destroyed, his engines were failing, and his crew was too demoralized to continue fighting. "General," said his communications officer, "the humans are requesting our surrender." Vorgak looked around his damaged bridge. His mighty empire had been defeated by a species most of the galaxy had never heard of. The humans had fought with tactics and technology that made the Korthak look like primitive savages. "Open the channel," he said quietly. Admiral So Young's face appeared on his screen. "General Vorgak, your fleet is defeated. Order your remaining ships to surrender and we'll treat your people fairly." The Korthak general looked into the human admiral's eyes and saw something that chilled him to his core. There was no anger or hatred there, just the cold determination of a perfect predator who had finished her hunt. "We surrender," he said, his voice barely a whisper. The galaxy was about to learn a new truth. Never threaten innocence when the humans are listening. 6 hours after the battle began, the mighty Korthak invasion fleet was completely defeated. The space around Serenity Prime was filled with disabled enemy ships and floating debris. Not a single human vessel had been lost, and their casualties were amazingly small. Dr. Haywan, the fleet specialist in alien psychology, was conducting interviews with captured Korthak officers aboard the Iron Thunder. She wanted to understand how the enemy had been defeated so easily. What she discovered would change how the galaxy thought about warfare forever. "Tell me about the battle from your perspective," she asked General Vorgak, who sat across from her in the ship's conference room. His proud warrior bearing was gone, replaced by the hollow look of someone who had seen his entire worldview destroyed. "Your people don't fight like anyone else in the galaxy," Vorgak said slowly. "Every species we've conquered before fought the same way. Big ships shooting at each other from long distances. It was about who had more ships and bigger weapons. Dr. Haywan nodded and made notes on her tablet. "How did we fight differently?" "You hunt," Vorgak said with a shiver. "You move like predators stalking prey. You strike from shadows. You use fear as a weapon, and you never fight the way your enemy expects you to." The general paused and looked out the window at his defeated fleet. "But the worst part wasn't your weapons or your tactics. It was your mercy. You treated our wounded with the same care you gave your own people. Warriors who show such kindness after such efficient killing. It broke something in my soldiers' minds." Dr. Haywan understood. The Korthak had built their empire on fear and brutality. They couldn't comprehend an enemy that could be both deadly and compassionate. It went against everything they knew about warfare. Meanwhile, on the surface of Serenity Prime, the rescue and rebuilding efforts were beginning. Captain Taemin worked with human engineers to assess the damage to the major cities. The Korthak. Bombardment had been devastating, but it could have been much worse. "Captain," said Dr. Ji Woo as she examined the human medical supplies that had been delivered to their hospitals. "These humans have technology we've never seen before. Their medical equipment is designed for treating battle injuries, but it's more advanced than our peaceful medicine in many ways." Taemin nodded. "A species that evolved on a dangerous world would need excellent medical technology just to survive. They've learned to heal wounds that would kill most other beings." The real impact of the battle began when Admiral So Young made a decision that would echo across the galaxy. She ordered her communications officer to broadcast a message on all known galactic frequencies. Every major civilization would receive her words. "This is Admiral So Young of the Human Interstellar Defense Fleet," she began, standing on the bridge of her flagship with the rescued planet visible through the windows behind her. Today, the galaxy learned something important. When innocent people call for help and humanity answers, evil forces learn to regret their actions. We are the species that climbed to the top of the food chain on a world that tried to kill us every single day for millions of years. Her voice was calm, but carried an undertone of steel that made listeners across the galaxy pay attention. We learned to hunt, to fight, and to survive in an environment that would destroy most species before they could build a civilization. But we also learned something else that's just as important. We learned to protect those who cannot protect themselves. The message continued as Admiral So Young looked directly into the camera. To any species that threatens innocent people in our reach, know that humanity is watching. We are the children of a death world, and we have made it our mission to ensure that the gentle species of this galaxy can live in peace. She paused, and when she spoke again, her words carried the weight of absolute certainty. To those who call for help, we will answer. To those who prey on the innocent, we are coming. The message ended, but its effects would last for generations. Within days, every major news service in the galaxy was discussing the Deathworld Declaration and analyzing the battle that had announced humanity's arrival as a galactic power. The Galactic Council, which had largely ignored humanity before, suddenly found themselves very interested in opening diplomatic relations with these new warriors. Species that had been threatened by aggressive neighbors began sending quiet messages to human space, asking if the protection offer was real. Dr. Haywan compiled her research into a report that was distributed throughout the galaxy's military academies. Her findings revolutionized the understanding of warfare and tactics. The report explained how humans had evolved as persistence hunters on a world where everything was trying to kill them, and how this had shaped their approach to conflict. 3 months after the battle, Captain In Su of the diplomatic vessel New Dawn established the first human embassy on Serenity Prime. The Velnari had offered to share their advanced healing technology in exchange for human protection, creating the foundation of what would become a strong alliance. The peaceful crystal beings were amazed by their human protectors. They watched human children playing with young Velnari in the rebuilt parks of their cities. The contrast was striking. The same species that could wage war with such deadly efficiency could also show such gentle kindness to allies and former enemies. General Vorgak and his surviving officers were eventually returned to Korthak space with a message for their empire. The humans had treated them fairly, healed their wounded, and even helped repair their ships enough to make the journey home. But the message they carried was clear. The days of easy conquest were over. The Korthak Empire, faced with the reality of human military power and the threat of other species joining the Human Protection Agreement, began changing their aggressive policies. It was easier than facing the possibility of another encounter with the children of Earth. 6 months later, Admiral So Young's fleet had become the foundation of the Galactic Protection Force, a human-led military organization dedicated to protecting peaceful species from aggressors. Ships from several friendly species had joined the force, but it was understood that humans would lead and make the tactical decisions. The galaxy had learned several important lessons from the Battle of Serenity Prime. First, never underestimate a species that evolved on a death world. Second, never threaten innocents when humans are listening. And third, the most dangerous predators in the galaxy might also be the most compassionate protectors. As the years passed, human patrol ships became a common sight throughout the civilized galaxy. They moved silently through space, keeping watch over peaceful worlds and trade routes. Aggressive species learned to think twice before attacking their neighbors, knowing that somewhere in the darkness, human eyes were watching. The final scene of this new galactic order showed children of many different species playing together in the gardens of New Geneva, the human diplomatic colony established near the Galactic Center. Above them, sleek human warships maintained their eternal vigil, ensuring that the gentle beings of the universe could sleep safely under the protection of Earth's children. The galaxy had found its guardians, and they had come from the most unlikely place. A small, dangerous world on the rim of known space, where a species of hunters had learned that the greatest victory was not in conquest, but in protection.